I think a Big 12 team, as long as they don't screw up, which still the Pac-12, the Big 12 was like, so I think Oklahoma or Oklahoma State. I think Oklahoma State. I find the one that intriguing. I kind of agree with Lugs that Alabama will be that last spot available. But I find the thing that's interesting is, what if Georgia absolutely destroys them in the SEC championship? I think that might alter the opinion, and that might open the window for Cincinnati is if they get bludgeoned. Because let's be fair, Alabama, I mean, their record's impressive, but if you kind of look inside some of their wins, that close Florida win, that's not that impressive. Florida went on to essentially lose out the rest of the way. I mean, they beat Stanford, but they allowed Stanford to put up 50 points. The Arkansas did lose, but they put up over 500 yards of offensive yardage on them. So how good really is Alabama? I'm not saying that they shouldn't be in contention. They shouldn't be in the talk, but like if Georgia goes in the SEC championship and squashes them, that might open up a window for a Cincinnati or Notre Dame.
Well, I do think, though, the one turning point for Alabama will be the Alabama-Auburn game. If Auburn were to beat them, and it's always possible just because it's a crazy, crazy rivalry, and guys will kill themselves to win that game. I mean, it's crazy how I've been to some of those Iron Bowls, and they do things that they would never do otherwise. They'll tackle people harder. It's just wild. So if Alabama loses that Auburn game, then I think they're out of the top four. But I do think at that point, Notre Dame will be moved in there. I just don't see any way that Cincinnati can make it unless they scored 150 points on somebody of note, and they don't have anybody of note left on their schedule.
All right, let's move to a game close to home. The Battle of the Old Oaken Bucket. Does a 2-9 Indiana have any shot at all against a 7-4 Purdue, who spanked Northwestern last weekend, by the way, at Wrigley Field, of all places? So what do you say? Indiana can take the Oaken Bucket?
Go ahead, T. This is your people. So you go, baby.
I'll go. The answer is no.
Not a chance.
That's all I have to say.
And that's our show for today. Thanks, everybody.
I'll just put it this way. The Indiana showed signs of life on offense against Minnesota. They scored 14 points. Here's the problem. The first drive was McCauley got the start. And I don't know why Minnesota didn't realize this. The first drive was he would get a shotgun snap and then he'd run the ball. And then he'd get a shotgun snap and run the ball. And like they didn't realize that he can't really throw at this point. But anyway, he was able to, but after that first drive, Minnesota was like, oh, he can't throw. Just don't allow him to run. And after that, they did not do anything on offense for the entire game. While Minnesota scored 3,500 unanswered points. And then at the end, Graham put up a nice touchdown on their very last drive. So first drive they scored, last drive they scored. Other than that, their offense is so much a dumpster fire that there's no way that Purdue, who can put up points against anyone for the most part, there's no way that Purdue's not winning it.
So Purdue will go 8-4 and have a good finish up. All right, locally, another game. Governor's Cup. A Kentucky team 8-3 versus Louisville 6-5. What say you?
3 weeks ago, I would have said UK would have just destroyed them. Now with the way that the offense, and the defense for U of L, I'd say it's flat even. I think it will come down to who wants it most. And what's going to be strange is I think there'll probably be more blue jerseys in the crowd than red. I think more UK fans will show up for the Wildcats than U of L fans will show up for the Cards.
That's an embarrassment.
But I'll give U of L a field goal maybe. I'm finding it hard to just be real enthusiastic, but I'll take U of L by a field goal.
Like a last possession game kind of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Just to make it interesting, I think UK wins. I think they're a better team. I think they played against better teams overall. I mean, not their non-conference. Their non-conference was a complete joke. which I'm fair. I'm fair because they play in the SEC and they do play. So like I'm giving them a pass on that for the most part. The only way the U of L wins is if like what happened in the Duke game, if Malik Cunningham just goes into God tier and is essentially generates over almost 600 yards of offense by himself. That's the only way it's going to happen.
Yards. Yeah, right.
So,
all right.
Yeah, I was just going to say, UK's opponent, New Mexico State, they don't even practice. They're like, they just make money off of playing people. I don't even think they have a team, really. They just get some guys from down at the bar and they suit them up, play people to make cash. Come on.
The Aggies got 1.2 large to play the Wildcats. 1.2 million. Wow. Okay, gentlemen.
Hey,
do you want to do a little sportsy yesteryear, Lugs?
Sure.
There we go. Let's bring it on. That's right. He's back once again this week with Sports of Yesteryear from far out somewhere in the hinterland. Lugs, come in. Can you hear us? Go ahead.
All right, here we go, gang. 1908, first U.S.-Japanese baseball game. The Reach All-Americans team defeat the Waseda U team 5-0. 1945, Cleveland Rams end Jim Benton gains 303 yards in a 28-21 win over Detroit Lions to take the NFL single game receiving record. Benton has since been surpassed by Flipper Anderson, Calvin Johnson, and others. 1957, Mickey Mantle wins the American League MVP for the second time. 1965, in his second title defense, Muhammad Ali scores a 12-round KO of Floyd Patterson. 1989, Major League center fielder Kirby Puckett signs a record $3 million per year contract with the Minnesota Twins. And finally, 1998, 48th NASCAR Sprint Cup. Jeff Gordon wins going away. That's it for this week's installment of Sports of Yesteryear.
I was telling my wife the other day that Kirby Puckett did set the record for, what was it, $3 million?
Yes, $3 million.
A year. Yeah, I thought he was the highest paid player of all time at that point, wasn't he? What a crazy world it's become since then. Okay.
I thought we were going to do the turkeys.
Oh, yeah, turkeys. Let's do it.
And not to bash on my man T-Dog, but I got to say the IU football team is the turkey of the year for me, considering what we thought was going to be. So that's my turkey of the year.
Turkey of the year.
I'd be ridiculous if I got too offended by that. I mean, to have the year they had last year and then for them to not win. I mean, again, because I think Purdue obviously going to win going away. To not win a Big Ten game. Wow. This year. It was about as big a disaster scenario that they could have had. Their only wins are against Idaho Vandals and Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. So not great. Not great at all. So
yeah, my turkey of the year is the one and only Aaron Rodgers. He enough said about that. We don't want to give him any more press time. Pat McAfee does pretty well doing that for him every week.
Mine is to keep it recent for what happened, and I hate to pile on him, but he'll get a good job somewhere else. My turkey of the year is Dan Mullen. I mean, you look at where they were essentially a year ago. They lost by a touchdown at SEC championship. In the offseason, he got a contract extension, and 2 weeks ago, he allowed Samford to put up 50 points on him. Even going back to that Alabama game, they lost close to Alabama in the regular season. It's like, oh, this is a team on rise, and they just did not win for the most part after that. And it feels like I'm just reading reports. I didn't know how hated he was in Florida, so it felt like this man was living on the edge for a while now. Anyway, just his inability to recruit. If you think about like the history of Florida and like how many great players come out of the state of Florida, for them to have the 23rd overall recruiting class and 9th in the SEC, That's if you don't put results on the field, you're not gonna keep
You're
your job.
done.
So
And by the way, that was Samford, not Stanford, right? I mean, that's right.
Yeah, it wasn't Stanford, it was Samford.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Samford is a law school there in Birmingham. I think they just had a bunch of lawyers out there.
Actually, the craziest thing was it was actually Samford and his sons. A lot of people didn't know this. Red Fox had a lot of kids while he was touring, and they
Elizabeth, it's the big one. The big one.
They created a collective football team. They had some good years, but like it's waned now.
Was Grady there and Lamont and
Grady was there
and Esther?
Yeah, he was their original coach. He led them to a few titles back in the day.
Man, that's some good stuff. That's some nostalgia right there. Okay. That brings to a close another episode of Sports and Other Stuff, brought to you in part by, let's see, Carlton's Menswear. Yes, come to Carlton's today. You'll look good tomorrow. 24 metro locations, including one at West Park Mall. There's one near you. Stop in and ask for our guy. His name is
Fish. And Fish is saying he wants to apologize to everybody. We had been advertising that Shaquille O'Neal was going to come by and play Elf in the local pageant. But he had to, at the last minute, he had a general insurance commercial. He had to drop out. So he's going to send his cousin Boomer O'Neal. And Boomer will be by, Boomer is a part-time car salesman, but he's a good guy. So come on down.
All right, that's our show for this week. So long for just a while.
The Bears are who we thought they were.